Welcome to another episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. We are on iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please go and leave a 5-star review. Here is a wonderful, wonderful review from KZ, the Gypsy Muse. The title of the review is called Lovable Chrissie. My God, these are getting so sweet, guys. Okay, never been a big fan of female comedians. Okay. I love when it starts with this. Never been a big fan of female comedians. Only a handful on my, quote, enjoy watching list. Been following Chrissie on Compound Media for 5 years. I don't think I've been going on for 5 years, but thank you for following me for 5 years. I remember when she went from guest to regular on In Hot Water. Her hilarious impersonations hooked me. The way she handled herself with Gino. Oh, thank you so much, KZ. This is a great review. I think I'm going to have to take my favorite reviews, laminate them, and hang them in my bedroom so I can look at them when I feel sad. This episode I'm very excited to talk about the sponsor, the very special sponsor now for the Chrissie Mayr podcast. It's One Sole. One Sole is the original interchangeable shoe that began in 2001. Basically, guys, if you are a person who, like, for me, packing shoes is my least favorite part of packing for a trip, because you're always like, especially as a chick, you're like, well, I don't want to bring like just a pair of black shoes because what if I have a brown outfit? What if I have a neutral outfit? What if it's like, I don't know. I know this might sound like, first world problems, but like packing shoes is a pain. And that's what I love about One Sole. It's basically an interchangeable shoe that you can change on for hundreds of different tops. And you can just snap them on and off in seconds. It's known for its comfort, and it's great for traveling because you only need one sole and a handful of tops. There are hundreds of different tops available, but One Sole is known for the comfy neoprene top that fits your foot like a glove. You can even customize the tops with any logo or photo that you want. This product has been featured on ABC News as best product made in America, and it was a season finale winner on Shark Tank. It is sold throughout the world and was created by a pharmacist, Dominique McLean Barty. Look at all these puppies. I mean, look at this. This is exciting. This makes me want to like go on a trip now. And for all my CMP listeners, you guys are gonna get 25. That's right, 25% off with the promo code CMP. Go to onesoleshoe.com and get some for yourself. Get some for your mom. Look at this. I mean, does this not scream fun? Look, they sent me a little Trump. Like, this could go right on top. It snaps. It's super easy. It's literally like boom, boom, boom. I mean, this is life-changing. I mean, I can't wait to travel again just for these freaking shoes. All right, guys, onesole.com. One Sole. Wait a minute. Don't look it up, Mayor. Onesoleshoe.com. Use the promo code CMP. Get 25% off. Yes, guys. Yes. I'm so excited I'm having 2 gals on the program today. Both of them have been on the show before. But before I announce them, guys, comedy dates this Saturday. I'm going to be performing at Coscob Comedy. Tickets for that are available on Eventbrite, or just check out any of my social media. Dallas, I'm going to be coming to you February 19th and 20th to Hyenas. Very excited for that show. I'm going to meet one of my super fans, Kayla. Very excited to meet her. And then February 26th, Comedians of the Compound is coming to Royersford, Pennsylvania. So come see me and the rest of the Compound Media gang, Aaron Berg, Anthony Cumia, Gino Bisconti, all your favorite funny guys, and me. And then on February 28th, I'm going to be headlining the Stress Factory in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Tickets for that all available through my website, chrissiemayr.com. Come see me live, doing jokes in person, dabbling in comedy. It's going to be great. You're going to wet your pants. I guarantee a good time, or at least cleavage. Okay, without further ado, I'm so excited to have both of these gals on the program. One you may have recognized from 2 months ago. She's a human trafficking survivor advocate. She was just recently on Tim Pool's wonderful program, and she's back here again to talk about how things have developed. Eliza Bleu.
Hi, ladies. Hi, ladies.
Hi, and
Thank you for having me.
I'm so thrilled you're here. I'm so excited to also have you guys loved her at the episode we recorded at the Gas Digital Studios. So I had to have her back because she feels very passionately about this topic as well. She's got a wonderful YouTube channel, and she's done a couple of videos on this very topic. She cares very much about human and sex trafficking as well. My gamer girl, my gamer gal pal, Brittany Venti, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
You're like such a little, like a bag of kittens. You sound so sweet. You're like, hello. I love it. I love it. Thank you guys so much for coming. Do we like this view better, or should I do like the three of us like we're on CNN?
I think the 3 looks better.
I like the 3 too, yeah.
Okay, good. I will keep it like this. This has been very exciting because I remember Eliza, when you were here 2 months ago, you're talking all about got a lot of people really fired up hearing about this, because I know, and I'm sure Brittany has been observing this as well for months. Just I was so blown away, and it was definitely last year when I found out just how much child porn there is on Twitter and how readily available it is, and how you no longer have to go to the deep dark web. I didn't even know where that was to begin with, but I was floored. I was disgusted. I was saddened. I was depressed about not only just the amount, but how easy it is to find, and most importantly, the fact that Twitter seemingly does nothing, or at least it's not a priority, to take this stuff down. And I know that Eliza has been working, pretty intensely on, I mean, I know that you work with many different survivors of human trafficking, but do you want to explain a little bit more about the case that actually is helping to, I would say, begin to hold Twitter accountable?
Yeah, so let's back up. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so let's back up a little bit. I think when folks hear this, especially when they don't see the content, they think it sounds sort of like something that doesn't exist or something that's not happening. This is something that's very widely reported on. Also, Twitter itself presents a transparency report telling how many profiles, child sexual abuse material, profiles that they send off to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. By law, this is what we should all be doing. So they do put out a transparency report. Unfortunately, there are quite a few profiles that stay live and active despite multiple reports. So whatever they're doing is not aggressive enough. It's not working. And John Doe's case is the quintessential case to prove this, what we're talking about. So John Doe is a male survivor of sexual exploitation. And for those that don't know the story, he was groomed on Snapchat, and by someone pretending to be someone else, by an adult pretending to be a child. He was groomed into sending explicit images and videos of himself, and then that material ended up on Twitter. So this young man, John Doe, was blackmailed essentially, and this material ended up on Twitter. Why it's becoming a big deal is because after multiple reports to Twitter, this young man begging them to take down this content, it was watched over 160,000 times in one day, with so many retweets. It is wild. And I know, like, ladies, you'll get this. Like, it's actually kind of hard on Twitter to get 160,000 views, especially in one day on a video. That's actually really difficult. So I think it just speaks to how many people were watching it. The way he found out it was on Twitter was people at school told him about it. This young man was on the brink of suicide, legit on the brink of suicide. After reporting, Twitter finally wrote back and said after reviewing the content, they were not going to take it down. This young man provided photo identification and was and still is a minor today. So this particular situation is really egregious, and it actually took the United States government stepping in to get this video down. So we have a problem. Twitter has a problem. And I think we got to quit acting like it's not a problem and just call a spade a spade. I don't know what the heck they're trying to cover up for. They're making money off this material.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am really inspired. I'm very moved by this brave young man is to stand up and to be willing to take on Twitter and big tech at his young age and to say like this happened to me. So he is a minor, has to file as John Doe. And I think that that's good too, safety wise. But it's still the fact that he was willing to go through the process. So
Yeah.
because I'm a public survivor and because I'm also a public advocate, I've definitely taken this situation upon myself to try to keep it out there and keep it going because he definitely deserves justice.
So he was 13 when this happened. He's 17 now. So for the last 4 years, he's been, I guess, trying to sue Twitter over this, or just, I'm sure a lot of time is spent just trying to be heard by somebody, anybody. How did he and you connect?
So the actual the actual video didn't pop up on Twitter until years after this. This is a
Okay.
2020. This just happened with him begging them to take.
Oh,
This
wow.
is like a new thing. This
So
isn't
somebody's
like we're
been
not talking
hanging
about
on.
Yes.
Someone's
So
hanging on to this material from when he was 13.
correct. Well, the way that the way that these pedophiles work and these predators work, they're gonna. So it's very, very unfortunate. But once this material's out there, I'm going to be very careful about what I say because there's always a small chance that he could be watching.
I imagine it's very hard to control it. Like,
a lot of people could have this video.
Yeah.
A lot of people could have this video. It's unfortunate. I don't think it'll probably go away.
Yeah.
When a lot of times when survivors step forward, especially when they have cases. So now I think like the lawyers will pretty much have to tell his family or him every time this video pops up for the rest of his life.
Wow, that sounds really annoying. I remember stumbling upon that material before on Twitter by accident because someone had DM'd me because I was doing breakdown videos against predatory behavior in general because it kind of overlaps with speaking out against prostitution. Sex trafficking and prostitution are very intertwined, and to learn about one, you have to learn about the other. So someone had messaged me a hashtag, and a few of them, and I clicked, and they seemed really strange, random hashtags. And so I click on it, and big mistake, I saw the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. I literally cried after seeing it because it was just it's traumatic to even see that content. For people who are not predators, it's very traumatic, and it's obviously traumatic for the victim as well. And I noticed that Twitter seems to be allowed to get away with this in a way, but yet you see other social media getting shut down for doing much less and not even having this type of content on there, like with Parler. They try with Telegram and Gab and all those. So BitChute too, a few times, I'm sure. So I don't understand why Twitter can get away with it, but all these other platforms can't. And the fact that it's on there for so long, like if you just go for the not safe for work section on Twitter, there's so many kids on there, and you could spend days just reporting all of the underage accounts. They put it like right in their bio, right in their title, target on their forehead. And Twitter will take their sweet ass time to take it down. And I've tried before doing the proper thing. You take the link, you report it to Cybertip, I think it's called, and then you send it in. But it takes so long for anything's done. And the horrifying part about, as Eliza said, about having that content out there, it's there forever. So it's really horrible. And people will sometimes hold that against people too. Like, oh, well, you're a whore. Because even though it was something against your consent.
How did John Doe, how did this happen for people listening that maybe have like young kids? Like, how did John Doe get in this situation? Like, how did he, and like you can use him as an example, like, or if there's like a majority, if most kids get into it a certain way, like, does it ever begin as sort of romantic, as possibly, does it begin as flirting, or does it, like, how, I'm sure a lot of people are listening, like, how did this happen? Like, how did this kid get to a point where this material was being recorded, shot,
Well, so a lot of times what happens is, let's say hypothetically, someone's 12, 13, 14, someone a little bit older than them, or someone will pretend to be a little bit older than them using fake pictures. So it's a catfish, basically. It would be like if somebody our age was on a dating website and somebody had fake pictures and was pretending to be someone else. We see that too. So that's how it happens. It's these pimps and these pedophiles and these predators pretending to be someone that they're not, but they also know how to speak the language of the youth very
to sound
well.
younger.
Yeah, to
the
sound
slang.
younger, and it's a slow grooming process. It's not like, it's the same as if it was somebody our age as well. A guy wouldn't DM me and say, "Hey, send me a picture." Well, they might, but that would be a horrible idea. But hey, send me a picture of your private parts or your chest. It starts much more subtly.
It's more like insidious. It's like these people become friends first, like just
Yes,
chatting. And it's like
grooming.
they'd hit you up in places that you wouldn't expect there to be messages going back and forth. Like, I think last time when you were on, you said Snapchat is a popular app where it's a way in. Or I don't know if TikTok has messaging. Like, I haven't been on TikTok in months.
TikTok has a lot of what I would consider sex trafficking, because there's literal porn stars on there, and even sugar babies being like, you should come and be a porn star like me. Look how great my life is. And I know that sounds really hyperbolic, but that's actually basically what this one girl said. I had put it in a video about the term sex work, and this is exposed to minors. There's no filter. Like, how on YouTube there's 18 plus. There's no filter like that on TikTok. It's just like, oh, you're 17, 16. Oh, well, you're being groomed while you're scrolling through TikTok. And I think the reason that a lot of people don't find the topic of sex trafficking interesting is because there's a huge misunderstanding of what that actually means. People think that it means basically to be smuggled or migrated, but that's very far from what it actually is in modern times. Not that that doesn't happen. Sex trafficking is a unique definition. By law, it's a crime against the individual in which commercial sex is prompted through force, fraud, or psychological elements of coercive control, or if the individual is a minor when they're doing the commercial sex acts, which include not just direct sex, but all forms of that, like camming or anything like that, any variation of prostitution. So,
yeah, I want to know what, like, I don't know what both of you think of this, but like, I think Eliza first, because you're just in the middle of kind of just dealing with this right now, because this news just broke. Like, what because you did Tim Pool on just a couple days ago, and I saw this, like, this news broke just maybe a few days before that even. But I wonder if you've gotten this comment a lot before. Like, what do you say to people who go, well, kids are growing up faster now. They're maturing quicker. Maybe this is just something that they genuinely wanted to do at the time, no matter what. I'm just playing like devil's advocate, even though it's like disgusting and we shouldn't have to. But like, I've heard people say this, like, well, like, what do you say to people that are like, well, they genuinely decided that they wanted to do that at that time? Maybe they were in a romantic relationship with this person. It's like, how do you I guess, how do you answer to that?
Well, the frontal cortex, your brain isn't fully developed yet. So to make those life-altering, possibly deadly decisions is not something that we should be leaving up to children. I have a pretty hard stance on. I have no opinion on what willing adults do. That could care less, to be brutally honest. It's not my bag. But when it comes to children, they're not at an age where they can consent. I mean, she was just explaining. I mean, there's no way. This is non-negotiable. With the adult stuff, I feel like those are some conversations that could be had. But once again, we always have to keep in the front of our mind with this whole thing. We are talking about human rights violations. Even if we're talking about labor trafficking, even if we're talking about sex trafficking with adults, any which way you cut it, it's still a human rights violation. So I think that the waters get muddied. People like to slip in their own agenda. At the end of the day, we're talking about human rights violation. So why are we even having any other conversation around it or trying to? I always try to play devil's advocate a little bit too, because I have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. So it's nice to get people's opinion, but at the end of the day, I'm always trying to whip the conversation back around. Like, hey, we're talking about human rights violations against kids. Like John Doe did not want that out there at all. This young man was on the brink of suicide. The fact that he's still alive is a miracle.
Yeah, it said Doe and the traffickers allegedly exchanged nude photos before the conversation turned to blackmail. If the teen did not share,
are you interrupt?
Okay, I'm talking about this post.
They weren't photos of him. Like, so the images were not of the actual trafficker. They were of someone else.
Okay, right. His catfishing identity, I suppose. Yes. Yeah. Is this post article not like the best place to be referring to? Like,
no, I think the post article did. I think they did really well.
Okay. Doe and the traffickers allegedly exchanging photos, which means like whoever photos they took to exchange, before the conversation turned to blackmail. If the teen did not share more sexually graphic photos and videos, the explicit material they'd already sent would be shared with his parents, coach, pastor, and others, the suit states. Doe, acting duress, initially complied and sent videos of himself performing sex acts and was also told to include another child in his videos, which he did, the suit claims. And it's like, who was this other child? Like a friend of his, family? I mean, this is horrible. I mean, it really is a miracle that this boy is still alive, because this, I can't imagine the shame, the guilt, everything he must be feeling. And I just don't understand, like, how can Twitter say that this didn't violate their terms? Like, how do they I don't know. Like, how do they support that claim?
There's nothing they can say. That's what they can say. There's nothing to say. There's nothing to say. At this point, it would really behoove Twitter to handle this issue ASAP. A lot.
I would like to say that I hold a little bit of a different stance in terms of when you're 18. I don't think what being 18 changes the fact that it's a human rights violation. I'm against all forms of prostitution, any sort of thing people refer to as sex work. It's prostitution, synonymous. The term sex work was created by a prostitute in 1978 named Carol Leigh. And I think that that porn actually fuels sex trafficking like this because it creates a demand, like what's going on. And that's why you have so many people watching it. Clearly there's a demand, right? And porn is basically fueling a cultural environment where it's okay to degrade and commodify humans. And it kind of normalizes that sort of human rights violation. So I think that regardless of his age, it's a human rights violation. However, obviously it's worse because he's a minor and minors cannot consent. But in my opinion, I think there's an argument to be made if anyone can consent to a human rights violation. It's like saying, oh, I'm going to sell my organs, or, oh, I'm going to OD on drugs. So I think it's self-harm.
Yeah, Eliza, how much... It's like, it sucks to say, like, how much of the blame do you put on porn? Because it's like, you can't look at something in a vacuum. But when you think about this problem in a larger sense, you know, do you think of how the porn industry could be changed? I for one, am not like against, you know, all porn being done away with, because I think what happens between two consenting adults and who wants to purchase that material, it's like, you know, it's up to them. But do you know, when you talk about this issue, how much does porn create more of a demand for this? Or it's like, well, there have been sick people since way before porn, who are looking at this kind of stuff. How much do you blame porn, and what can be done? I mean, it would take the industry overhauling, I think. And it has to come from Twitter, I think, number one. Like, they have to.
Oh, Pornhub was pretty. I mean, Pornhub just had their rear end handed to them as well. Yep. So it's not like this is a new conversation. We've been seeing this. It's been happening quite a bit recently. Pornhub was sort of the first. I knew John Doe was going to be after that. So this is not a new conversation. These are conversations that we're having. That, you know, a lot of my colleagues are definitely so I have colleagues across the board, right? I have some that want to completely legalize. I have any type of anybody in my circle. I always like to veer the conversation of, I understand why people would be anti-porn, anti-sex work. I can see this. I can see the argument. But why are we still talking like that? I'm not talking about that, because at the end of the day, if we end all that today, I said this on your show before. In fact, I think your show might be the only one I said it on. If we ended porn, like if Pornhub was pulled down today, you're going to end up with more victims of human trafficking. If we ended listen, you have to look at it. The harder we make it, the more victims of human trafficking. So we have to play the movie forward just a little. My fear with the Pornhub situation was, I don't want to have more victims of human trafficking. So when you take away somebody's ability to make money like that's their primary source of income, I think it would probably be more beneficial to warn folks in advance. Pornhub had a dirty operation going. They have a dirty operation going. They're a whole other situation. But I think that it would have been kinder to the entertainers that work that do it the legal way through their platform, to at least have warned them, like, hey, we're going to switch up everything. Because if that's your primary source of income, that just made you more vulnerable to becoming a victim of human trafficking, because you're desperate and you got to make money, right? So I don't think that that it would be a bad idea to continue these conversations, but it's just not my so the porn conversation just isn't my primary focus, if that makes sense. I'm not like scared of it. It's just like,
you want to help people, like you want to help the victims right away.
Yeah, it's not my. Now that being said, I mean, I still do reports of a lot of folks being trafficked through pornography. I mean, the human trafficking hotline has the number of calls that came in 2019. I haven't seen the 2020 numbers yet, but from specifically trafficked through porn. When I went to the safe house where I was, there were survivors there specifically of porn. That was the only type of survivor that they were. Not saying that that's not enough. That's plenty. And I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So we know that this is a problem. We know it's a problem.
So I would like to respond to that. So I disagree on the fact that you're saying that if you ban it, it makes it so more happens. I don't really think that makes sense, considering the fact that in places where porn was banned, sexual violence actually went down. And in this case, because of how the study was conducted, causation was correlation, and you could directly see that. And also, I think that logic line leads to saying, oh, well, you know, if we make XYZ illegal, that will make it worse. In that case, we would just have no laws. Laws outlawing it directly disincentivize that. And like I said, porn fuels sex trafficking. They're directly related. And you saying, oh, well, what about women that are poor? You know, they're doing this for a living. They're impoverished. And that's exactly why they're doing it. And that's exactly why we should ban it. Women should not be having to be subject to having their human rights violated due to their economic status. They shouldn't have to sell themselves. Women shouldn't be for sale, and neither should men. In this case, obviously, with the sex trafficking. And also, last thing, with the whole Pornhub stuff you mentioned in the beginning, that's a perfect example. Pornhub actually verified people that were under 18. Mm-hmm. So they had a check mark, and their verification process didn't even require ID. Anyone could have became verified. Anyone. You could have been underage. And so they had a bunch of CP allegedly on their site. That's why they had to take everything down that wasn't verified, even though their verification process is worth nothing. So that in itself proves that there was sex trafficking going on, allegedly, you know, just to not get sued. And I think that supports the point. And if you want there to be less sex trafficking and normalizing exploitation of anyone, especially children, especially women, then you should outlaw it. It's inconsistent to make prostitution federally illegal, but then suddenly when a camera is turned on, it's perfectly fine.
I mean, but it's not an actual I can understand, like, I would not equate OnlyFans to prostitution because you're not like, you could be performing sex acts, but you're not like, someone isn't paying to have them with you, like
It is,
physically.
but it is because it's selling sexual activity, and that's the definition of prostitution, is exchanging sexual activity for payment. So even if you're selling foot pics, for example, technically it's a flavor of prostitution. It's all sex work and prostitution, like I said, it's the same thing. Sex work is the politically correct way of saying prostitution, and that's why Carol Leigh created it. She's the spokeswoman for Coyote, which is a sex work rights organization.
It's interesting because if you were to ban all porn, it's like, that like the pedophiles, like, they don't just like disappear. It's like, and things that are banned, often it goes black market, it goes underground, and it's like, I mean,
but at that point makes CP illegal. But that logic's, and that's not good, right? Nobody would want that. So I don't think that that's a good solution. I think we should be disincentivizing it and stigmatizing porn and general prostitution more than we do now, and stop calling it sex work, because it leads to CP being out, because it makes people hypersexual. They get addicted to porn. I'm telling you, it's directly linked. It's a cause and effect thing.
What do you think, Eliza?
I appreciate the opinion. I just, have you ever had a pimp?
Why would I have a pimp?
Brittany? Well,
No.
I'm asking because you're speaking from the perspective of someone that's been there, and it's just not the case. I'm asking because I feel like that's an honest question, because I've had a few, and I'm telling you right now, when you're there, that changes. And when you work with survivors and when you directly serve survivors, you also have your finger on the pulse. I do this night and day. This is all I do. And
what changes? Can you specify?
Hold on, let me finish. Every single prediction that I've made considering the movement has been correct, and then some. So I'm just trying to look out for as many folks as possible, trying to make sure as many people stay as safe as possible. And to be brutally honest, this isn't my area of expertise. Sex work, prostitution, I try to stay as out of these conversations as possible, because brutal honesty, the conversation of just human trafficking is enough. I cannot be an expert in everything. You know what I mean? I can't read every study and have every single study memorized. So I try to stay very laser focused on exactly what I'm doing. But I also have had pimps. I've also been in, been on both sides. And I truly feel in my heart, I get what you're saying, but there are willing adult sex workers out there. And I get you want to shame them, but that I attract more bees with honey than with vinegar. And right now we have real problem on our hands. So talking about sex work and consistently moving the conversation to sex work is just putting more lives at jeopardy. We don't have the time.
I don't agree. I think it helps it and it decreases it. And
that's okay.
And I understand that you've been through that.
Yeah, I understand your point.
And I'm not saying to go around, you're a whore, but I'm saying if we remove the stigma of what it is, of it being something bad, something that's self-harm, then it incentivizes people to do it, which is why we've seen an increase in things like OnlyFans. I think that we should actually be very forgiving to people who decide to leave that industry. And I see a huge lack of forgiveness for, especially from people online, even from those who claim to be Christian. It's very shocking. Not that all Christians are like that. That's being a bad Christian. But people should be more forgiving of people who decide to leave the industry, and don't shame them for it, because then it makes people not want to leave that sort of environment. So I'm not saying to go around and point your fingers at you're a whore, but it's like you can't at the same time call it a good thing, because then you're motivating it and you're fueling the whole thing.
I didn't say it was a good thing. I said I had no opinion on what willing adults do behind closed doors. I didn't say it was a good thing.
I didn't say you did.
Don't care. I actually just truly don't care. It's not my area of interest is what willing adults do behind closed doors. It's just not. And by the way, I get pushed on this issue all the time. My best friends told me I need to take a harder stance. I've looked up multiple studies, especially this week in preparation to be on Tim Pool. Just as far as, the legalization conversation, the decrim, how it's increased, how it's not, increased in certain areas. But at the end of the day, if you've never been there, it's going to be really hard to speak from that perspective. The
thing is, when you say that, if you haven't been there, you can't speak on it. That's like saying, well,
I didn't say that. I said it would be hard for you to speak because you've never been there. So I'm telling you, I have been there multiple times. Right. I spent 9 years in that life. So I speak from a place of knowledge and I serve survivors full time. So this is like, it's not like something I'm just dipping my toes in the pond. I do this. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, but that doesn't invalidate what I'm saying either. And
I said I
your
respect
experience
the
is
system.
valuable 100%. But the thing is, if you want to learn more about sex trafficking, you have to learn more about the porn industry. And a lot of adults in the porn industry are not willing. And so it's not just consent behind closed doors. That's the problem in the first place. People do it out of desperation for money. People do it out of coercion, which when it becomes sex trafficking and manipulation, things like that.
I think, and when minors get involved in it, I think it's less so for them. They're getting involved for money. It might be an emotional need and an emotional vulnerability and it also seems the kind of thing where like Eliza has mentioned this, like it's not a thing you can just be like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore, I'll just leave. It seems like it's just not that easy because you have pimps and you have like, there's a lot of manipulation going on. It just seems like a really complicated problem. Would you say that it's, what I want to get back to, because I forgot to ask this before, how does Pornhub and I guess also Twitter in this case escape responsibility? How have they been able to escape responsibility thus far? Just by saying
all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to the top. How did Epstein get away with it for so long?
Oh my gosh.
All the way up to the top and all the way down to the bottom. Also, there's a, interesting piece there. So Section 230 with FOSTA SESTA in there. So FOSTA SESTA was signed into effect in 2018. And that is starting to create a little bit more accountability. And there's other things like Earn It Act possibly might get passed. That would change things as well. So there are things changing. We have to remember, in the scheme of things, the internet is relatively new still. So this is probably something nobody really saw coming, and we were just slow to act. We were slow to act on it.
Yeah. I know it's hard to think of the internet as new.
I just want to say one other thing, that it's also hard to prove these things as well. So these things can be very difficult to prove. In John Doe's specific case, I'm grateful that the evidence is there. It's going to be like a slam dunk, essentially.
And by slam dunk, like what happens then? Like what happens next for him? And what does it mean for everyone else? Oh, you'll see.
I hope he gets justice.
He will.
Poor guy. I mean,
I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and you've spoken with him a lot and his family. How is his family doing? I mean, this is something that affects everyone who knows him, and it's just. I imagine
what's funny is that I've actually never spoken to John Doe, and I wouldn't know him if I passed him on the street. I've never seen a picture. But I've spoken to his mother a decent amount, and the family is doing very well, and they're excited and humbled by the outpouring of love and support. And they hope that this creates lasting change on Twitter and other platforms.
Good. I hope it scares the shit out of a lot of platforms and a lot of people, especially Jack.
Do you think it'll affect that one thing? What was it called? Like Section 230, where if publishers are responsible for what goes on their site, do you think it'll affect that at all?
So my position, it could. So Section 230 already has FOSTA SESTA amendment in it. So part of Section 230, there's FOSTA SESTA amendment. FOSTA SESTA are two separate things, but they're lumped together. So there already is that from within Section 230. And then Earn It Act would almost be a part of that as well. So if that passes, if it goes through all the way, it's already through some things. But I personally don't think that we should completely get rid of Section 230. With this specific issue, we need to throw a lot of energy behind it. A lot of energy, because this is a really big problem.
Eliza, tell us about, you were just on Tim Pool's. Tell us about the process. How did you guys connect? Had Tim been sort of following you and this story for a while? What was that experience like?
Tim had done a piece on it behind the paywall. So Tim is conscientious of his channel and doesn't want to get anything, no problems, right? These conversations and even the type of stuff that I talk about are not welcome on the platforms that we are all on, right? So So he was being very conscientious. He had already done a huge behind the paywall piece on John Doe in that case. He was just terrified of losing his channel talking about it. Can you believe it?
I remember he had Alex Jones on, and the whole time he looked so nervous. I was like,
Right.
he's just thinking about this coming down. And I think it did come down at
It
some
did.
point. But
Is that because of YouTube's policy against talking about child exploitation? Is that why he was worried?
Yeah, he was. It was. I see. I'm not a YouTuber yet, I guess. So I
Mhm.
don't know what the rules are. I guess if I had been a good guest, I would have looked up all the words. But we literally talked about it so much beforehand. I was like, okay, what are all the words I can use and what are all the words I can't use? There was a point in our conversation and in the preparation process where we were even just not even going to say human trafficking at all.
Wow.
While we were live. So it was put me in an interesting position because I'm not like some genius. Like I'm not a genius. You know what I mean? Like I don't know much about much. Like I'm not anything special, I guess, so to speak. So to be sitting there with probably one of the most popular political pundits and to not be able to talk about the one thing that I love to talk about, it was really difficult.
Do you think YouTube is making it worse because of that? Because they're not allowing you to speak out against it?
Yeah, this is a big free speech issue. If we can't say the words, and even you go on to like one of the biggest shows to talk about it, you're feeling stifled. You're like, I can't even say human trafficking, but
say
that's
anything.
what we're there to talk about. I
I
can't.
couldn't say obscene. No, well, what we did was we did an interview after the live, and it was behind the paywall. So,
Okay.
but we did that intentionally, but that almost kind of because then the whole site crashed for like so many people signed up.
Wow.
That the site crashed. So like
That's
for a
good
long time.
in a way.
Yeah, so many people signed up. There was like 7 people working on it almost nonstop to try to get everything. Well, it wasn't the site that there's just a lot of people. I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but it was a lot of people all at once. They wanted to hear it. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for everybody. And I think slowly it's getting resolved. But yeah, so we did that behind. And even in that specific case, it's I think it could have gone a little bit differently, but I'm still grateful for the opportunity.
What would you have done differently if you could go back?
Well, there was a lot of things. Like I worked a full work week before I came. So my interview was on Thursday. I worked a full work week and then I went to bed at midnight, got up at 3:30 for my flight, flew all day. I was exhausted. You know what I mean? And then sat there and tried to shoot the breeze about topics that I don't know. And brutal honesty, I was a little bit nervous. Like who wouldn't be?
Yes, I would be peeing in my pants the whole time.
Isn't there like 70,000 live viewers? I actually tabbed into his channel and I actually saw you on. Like, it was my first time ever seeing you. And I was like, oh. Then I actually was like, oh, snap, she's on here. Crazy coincidence.
Yeah, it was really I never in my wildest dreams thought I would ever be on podcasts. This wasn't like, you know what I mean? If you would have asked me, because I only became public survivor leader in April 2020. So it's still new. So to get an opportunity to have a just to even be out, it's cool. I think it's really cool. But it's I really just wanted to advocate for John Doe and talk about that.
And I was trying to look for your tweet, Eliza, that you mentioned, because you actually tweeted to Jack directly and you DM'd him. And so have you heard anything from him or anyone on behalf of Twitter?
No.
Nothing.
No. They're not going to. It's lawyers now. Lawyers are going to tell them absolutely don't do anything with that girl.
So it's all just the PR people handling it now.
Yeah, there's no way. I mean, I don't know what it would take. I think it'd be really cool if someone did apologize to John Doe. They don't need to do it through me, though. They can do that through send messages to lawyers or whatever they want to do. But, you know, I try to turn the heat up. I knew I had a few, like, okay, so I have things that I keep close to the chest, and then I pull them out when I need to use them. And that was just one of them.
Do you think the right thing to do if Jack, not like he'd ever listen to this, but if Jack were listening,
you never know, girl.
right? Like, Jack,
Mm.
give me my purge followers back, Jack.
I swear, I lost 14,000. 14,000. I was like, dang.
Yeah,
You lost that many?
Yeah,
I
14,000.
think I lost
Oh
like
my
at least
God.
maybe 4, 2, 3. I don't know. The little purgies. So it's if Jack is listening to this, it sounds like we would say to him the right thing to do would be apologize directly. Maybe say something directly to John Doe and his family.
I think that would be really classy. As
Like,
the
hey,
CEO, as the
yeah.
CEO and as the founder of this platform where he was trafficked and where they told him they wouldn't take it down, I think it would be really classy to call and apologize and to check on him.
Wow.
And
Maybe
to
with
offer-
a $40 DoorDash gift card, like like that one company
Oh
did
my
with the socks. By the way, I'm gonna link it in the private chat so you both can see it. Those are the links to the study I was referring to other about the direct correlation with putting laws against
Wow.
what was it, prostitution or porn. And
thanks because I'm in a studio. I'm like far away from the computer. I can't click on it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole setup.
Because you're still at can we say where you are right now?
sorry, I was
Yeah.
outlawing prostitution. I want to correct
Okay.
myself. Outlawing prostitution lowered sexual crime violence.
Yeah. So
That's
Eliza,
what it
you're still at Tim's right now. You're doing this little live from his house. There's like it's got a whole he's got multiple studios there. It's very, very cool.
Yes.
There's a skate park. Yeah, I'm gonna look up the pictures as soon as we're done.
That's a house? It has a
Yeah.
skate park?
Yes. They have
Wow.
it's probably one of the coolest places I've ever seen.
That's my dream, is to make like just a studio compound, that's what I want. I mean, that's very, very cool. And how gracious of him to be like, come. I mean, I imagine like he has like rooms there. You stayed over. It's the hotel pool. It sounds very cool. Do you get a little black beanie when you leave?
I thought about doing, he's got a specific personality, so I don't want to.
Yeah,
be
I
annoying.
know. I would probably do some stuff where I thought I was being hilarious, and he'd be like, goodbye, have a good one.
I've already done a couple of those things. I just try to keep my annoying. Listen, it's hard because I'm kind of annoying. So I
Aw.
just, no, it's really cool. I'm grateful for the experience, and yeah, I'm just grateful that he even gave it a chance. He wasn't. Yeah, I don't want to give away too much information. He was nervous about it.
How did that
Yeah.
come about, by the way? I'm curious. Like, how did you guys connect?
Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I was still on Twitter.
Twitter's like
Love-hate relationship with the old Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. Twitter is the main way that, but one thing that has been really incredible is so many folks have really rallied behind not just John Doe, but even before the John Doe case was out. So many folks, Chrissie, you're one of them. There's just been so many people that have really taken this. I feel grateful. I almost wish it was somebody else speaking. I wish it was maybe a different survivor or advocate that was out talking about this stuff. And I hope that maybe other survivors will get inspired and start doing the podcast space as well. I think that would be really cool to amplify more voices and to just get an opportunity to do this. I think it'd be cool. And by the way, I know I'm not the only survivor that's been on podcasts. Like they do it already. So I know it's being done. In fact, survivors have their own podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from when you were on a couple months ago, Eliza, a lot of people I was seeing in the comments and getting messages from, they were like, we're so inspired. What can we do to help? So what would you say to survivors that are listening or people that just want to help who are listening? How can they give to this cause and what are the next steps? What can regular people do?
That's a good question. It's my favorite question. I always, encourage survivors, if anybody's listening or watching, to reach out for help. The human trafficking hotline is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They have 200 plus languages available. There's also services available for those that are hard of hearing or vision impaired. So there's resources out there. And then what they will do is assess your needs and connect you with an organization in your area that can better serve you and kind of help you along with your journey. I still have a survivor advocate myself. It's a really great relationship, and I would just encourage any survivor out there. I think one thing that's important to note is that no matter when your traumas happened, you still have access in the United States to an advocate at any point in your journey. So even if something happened when you were a child and it's just now coming up, if something's bubbling up as a result of listening to this conversation, please reach out for help. We care about you, we love you, and we believe you, and we want to be there for you, but you have to reach out. And I let folks know you got to be really aggressive in reaching out for help, because sometimes, you have to wait for a little bit when you call the human trafficking hotline. That's probably one of the saddest things in 2020, specifically, just from the increase in calls. It takes a while to get through. So stay with it. Don't hang up. And if it's not a good time, call back. They also have messaging services as well, or email. You could get a hold of someone. So as far as folks getting involved in the movement, I just always let them know, do whatever you're doing already. Use it for the survivor space. I say your time, talent, or treasure are the three things that I recommend folks use for the movement. Look up what organizations are available in your area. Research the organization, and use whatever you got for the survivor space. If you're a carpenter, volunteer to go fix the roof at the safe. Volunteer to go work on the safe house. Like I've always let the podcasters know, like, hey, you guys are you using your voice, your platform for the movement, because you're having stuff like this on there. So whatever you're already doing, think about using it for the survivor space. I can guarantee you we need it.
That sounds really good. Eliza, I'm wondering, and I was just thinking about this. Okay, so John Doe is like, it seems like the first big case. I'm sure there's so many other people who have material that are just like him, that their material is still up on Twitter. Does this, kind of blow open the door for like a class action lawsuit against Twitter? Because I imagine a lot of people are in the same position as John Doe, and are also looking for answers.
Yes, it does. And if you're a survivor of Twitter or another social media platform, Pornhub, OnlyFans, reach out to the National Center on Sexual Exploitation and the National Center on Sexual Exploitation Law.
Oh, okay.
That legal team is representing John Doe in collaboration with Lisa Haba. Lisa Haba is also representing the Nygaard survivors as well.
Oh, right. Peter Nygaard, who was taken down. He was like, what was he like? He ran like a model agency. Yeah.
Fashion
Yeah.
modeling, the whole thing. That's shaping up to be quite the epic situation.
Wow. Yeah. And he was like BFFs with Epstein. Whoo! And remember when they said it was all conspiracy? Oh, there's no island.
Right.
My God, this is nuts, guys.
I have a question. Why do you think there's an increase in calls with the sex trafficking hotline? Is that a good or a bad thing? Because, like, is it good that more people are reaching out, or is it that it's increasing?
That's a really good question. And I think about this a lot, and I don't have a solid answer. I think it's could be a whole bunch of different things. So it could be an increase of awareness of the hotline. So that's good, right?
Right.
There's also a potential. Well, we know from just the early reports back that we're getting from 2020. We're getting early reports back just as 2020 as a whole. It's looking about maybe a 200% increase, generally speaking, in the United States, of just folks looking for services. So there's that. Also, because the topic was amplified, because of groups that have amplified the topic, folks were calling. Wayfair specifically was a really rough time for the hotline because folks were calling about the Wayfair situation to report. When situations like that happen, there's an increase in calls. I don't think that folks are really understanding that if a survivor can't get through, it could be legit a life or death situation. We need to make sure that victims and survivors can always get through quickly. Like this should be like, because, if you're being trafficked, if your trafficker walks out of the room and you literally only have 30 seconds with the phone.
You don't have time to be on hold. Yeah. Wow. You're like, he's in the bathroom.
You don't have time to be on hold because somebody's calling about Wayfair. This is not that. This is life or death. Legit life or death. So we don't play any games with that. That's why we want to make sure that the hotline stays open and manned. And yeah.
And the hotline is better than, say, like having, and is tell me this is a dumb question, but like, are there places they can email or even text? You know what I mean? Or is that worse because it's traceable and I don't know.
They make sure to take safety first, right? And you can email and you can message and text as well. So there's
Okay.
a lot of different ways, and in multiple languages and 200 plus languages. So yes, there are ways to do it out there. And then Georgia made their own human trafficking hotline. So that's pretty cool. So maybe there's a little bit more safety there. You know what I mean? They could maybe get through a little quicker if you're in the state of Georgia. And then I just saw one that was made in Texas where it's for friends and family to call in case they have questions or if they think a friend or family member is being trafficked. So we are seeing some change in those ways. So that's good.
Other than what we mentioned before, like Snapchat, TikTok, like what are some really popular, in case like folks with kids are listening and scared shitless about this, like what are some other vulnerable areas of the internet or things that parents should look out for or check in with their kids about, that like, how do they know, like, oh, how do I keep this from happening to my kid or a kid that I know?
All areas of the internet. There's no area of the internet that's safe. This is all areas of the internet. But whatever the most popular social media sites, see, the difficulty is that things get more popular, like the social media apps are changing all the time. What's popular and cool at the time will change quickly, especially for that specific age demographic. So you got to stay a step ahead of your kids at all times.
So ask them
really
like,
hard.
what apps are they on? Just know where your kid is going, and that's the thing. It's like even through the video games, you can profile people can message you through video games. Like Brittany, were you like? I'm sure you get a ton of creepy messages just all the time because you're hot. But like, I can't imagine like anybody can just say anything. Like, do you know Brittany? Like just from the video game world, like, are there safeguards in place there?
Yeah, I heard there was a huge issue with Roblox where people have tags saying their sexuality. And keep in mind, it's not that it's homophobic. It's that these are kids, right? And they're delving into sexualities and stuff and basically broadcasting it. They have entire discords where like you'll click and you can click what age you are and it gives you a tag. So literally a target on your forehead. And it allows the predators really easy access, and that happens all the time on Roblox. My friend Jessica Jessix on YouTube, she made a video about that if people are curious to know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Roblox is a big one that I hear about from multiple people that play the game, younger people.
And you would hope like these big games are like seeing what's happening with Twitter and they're probably like, oh shit, like we might be next if we don't change a few things.
I don't know why people aren't making it a top priority before it happened. Like I went to locals.com. Here we go into our locals conversation. But I went to locals and I was like, so look, I know we're free speech and there's no censorship, but you will have a problem. Period. It's not a question. As the platform grows, you're going to have a problem.
Just like any platform can have.
Right. Yeah. That's why Gab was like, look, we're just going to nip it in the bud right before it starts because we don't want this problem. Right. So you have to be sort of proactive in this way. So locals did make a hard line, and they didn't want to, but I was like, look, this child sexual abuse material will become a big problem. You have to draw a line. And so there was conversations there.
How did locals like remedy that? Like what was their hard line? Was it
no NSFW or no NSFW material, period, not even for educational purposes.
Nice.
Okay, wow. Like look at locals. Okay. And it sounds like you were instrumental in having that happen, Eliza.
I just brought up the CP. That's it. I mean, I just brought it up. Look, I mean, we were already having conversations anyway. So I just, of course, I have an agenda, I kind of want to get rid of this problem. So I have an agenda. So I bring it up into a conversation if I think it'll help. And I'm really grateful that I did because now the platform's exploded with everybody getting kicked off.
Yeah.
So this is, you have to sort of stay a step ahead. Why these games and social media platforms are not staying a step ahead, I don't know. It's going to end up killing them. I truly feel in my soul like we won't even be talking about Twitter in the next 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, it'll be hard for it to go that fast, but come on. Listen, people are going to get hip to it. People are going to get really hip to it.
Wow.
Well, for one, they kicked off a bunch of people, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That really woke a lot of people up. Either friends of a purge or purged themselves. It's the stock plummeted. So, and it's just great to see all these other social medias popping up, and people are like, yes, we are a little bit more fragmented, but that's just part of change. And and you have a good point. It's like, good for locals, because by the time it happens, it's already too late. So
right.
Whatever you can do that looks like, oh, this is overly precautious. It's like, well, that's because when it's too late, it's too late. And people's lives have been damaged, possibly permanently. So,
well, actually, Brittany was kind of touching on this a little bit before too. And you and I had touched on it before earlier. Like when folks see this material, it's also traumatizing them as well. Like
seriously,
there's secondary trauma as well. So this is not like something to be, because if Brittany was a survivor, or if someone's a survivor, okay, so it's traumatizing someone that's not a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
When
right, because it makes your heart sad. You're just like, oh God, this is evil.
Like I wanted to literally unsee it. I the first time in my life I want to truly just unsee something.
I bet. And I'm really sorry that happened to you, because you shouldn't have had to see. You should not have had even that chance to even see that. That's not something someone should ever have to see. And I feel bad that even has happened, and what it does to survivors, or
you relive it, struggle, right?
It can trigger you to commit suicide. Let's keep it all the way real. This is life or death we're talking about, even a survivor seeing that, because it triggers them back to the worst moments of their life, and they want to be gone.
And also someone could see that maybe they're not even aware that has happened to them. And is it possible that like someone who was abused as a child, and they see that, and maybe they could be 30, 40, older than that, and could it be possible that is the thing that makes them go, oh,
100%.
Brings them back.
This is it's very real. So it's not just, yes, of course, the initial victim is really like, that's of course our primary concern, but it does have secondary ramifications as well.
Wow. And it's like, you could be in your car, you could be at work. I mean, like, there's probably no good place to have that like PTSD come back up.
No, but, I mean, I've seen, it's unfortunate. I have seen it as well on Twitter. And I'll be like doing something, it'll like mess up the rest of my day.
Yeah.
Like,
it's your heart breaks.
I'm trying to work and stuff. And then it's just like, I can't be normal. I was on a walk with my grandma once, and somebody sent me a link. They were trying to get my attention to it, but it's just like,
yeah, me too. People were tagging me on some stuff, and then I'm just like, where is this kid? Like, where is this girl now? And I just was like thinking about that for days. So it's this tough work, Eliza, and you're a saint for doing it, and Brittany as well for talking. These are hard topics. Most people do not want to talk about this stuff. So this change is a long time coming, but it's like, we just can't shut up about it. And hopefully John Doe is the case that kicks it through and blows the whole thing open. And like, I don't know, hopefully this will be a damaging blow. So, and an example for others.
It has been a little hard, because I've noticed that like CNN, New York Times have not reported on it.
Oh my God,
magically.
Oh, they're just so busy with watching Biden try to put a pen in his pocket. They just didn't have time.
So it does. So I'm trying really hard to keep this, and it's not like I'm alone. You know what I mean? I'm not a saint, by the way, but I'm trying really hard to keep this story alive and going, and also maybe to encourage other survivors to step forward as well. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's so nice of you. I think what you do is really great, in that you should keep doing it for sure. People need it. And I wanted to touch on the free speech thing. I think people don't understand what free speech actually is, because even with free speech, how we have it now in America, there's still speech you can't say. You can't make threats to someone. You can't slander someone, things like that. So same thing with CP, right? Like that kind of goes under things that are not allowed and not considered free speech. because they're harmful.
Of course, but it's like it's even more harmful when it's like, for example, YouTube, like you can't even say human trafficking. Like the words that you have to use to talk about the topic are taboo, or
Yeah.
it's going to get you canceled. It's like it just seems like you guys are part of the problem because you keep us from talking about it, because it's like
I was driving me crazy before Tim Pool because I was legit like, I don't know how to talk
you've just signed
without
out.
it.
Yeah.
And that's why we just decided to do it behind the paywall. I was like, look, we should just do it because I was like, I don't want to sleep on this opportunity.
Yeah.
But if we can't talk about it, we can't talk about it. But I felt, and I still feel that still speaks to a broader issue. Like, okay, I can't even talk about it because under no circumstances do I try to talk about this issue in a way that would be conspiratorial, that would not speak to facts. You know what I mean? Like, I try to keep it pretty cool. Like, I don't go off the rails with it. I try to keep it pretty chill. So the fact that I can't even speak about it as a survivor,
it's like, this is blatantly happening. It's probably the worst thing in the world. Oh, but our precious ears, we can't hear the word trafficking. It's like, it really makes me mad. But
it just comes down to ads, I think. I think that's what it's all about. And it's really sad that it's making it so people are disincentivized with talking about it in general. Like, you can't run ads on it. You can't, they'll suppress in the algorithm, things like that. It just makes it so difficult. Do you guys think that's
intentional? Like, do you think, or did it, okay, let me ask another question because you guys would know better than I would. Is that after, was that a new rule after the groups, kind of how after the group, after Twitter, the group? I don't even say the name, but because I don't know where I'm allowed to say it.
Which group? Are you talking about Pornhub? Or are you talking about?
No. Okay. So there's a group, a movement, as I don't even know how a collaboration of folks where I think it started like on 4chan, 8chan.
Oh, I'm not sure which group, but I do recall they got harder. They went harder on the rule of no talking about exploitation.
Don't worry about demonetizing this video, by the way. Go ahead and say.
I was talking about QAnon.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Here we go. Right. Yeah. Oh, they'll kick everyone off for mentioning QAnon, but it's like.
Right. That just goes to show like how wild it is. Like, I didn't even want to say it, and I'm over here dancing around it, and I always dance around it.
No, yeah, go nuts. I don't.
That's a hard one to describe too. You can't even dance around that one.
I'm like the letter of the alphabet.
Yeah,
it's like playing 21 questions.
A pool cue without the pool. Yeah,
that's funny. Actually, I might use that. I might say, but no, I mean, so was that a new rule after the Q situation, after the QAnon situation?
I honestly think Twitter and the left were looking to demonize conservatives and Republicans, and like it was just like the perfect storm of like, oh, we can totally peg like these Q followers as crazy and spreading harmful and dangerous misinformation, because it's like, yeah, Antifa was around before that and like more in people's minds, and so was BLM. So it's like I think they were just looking for something to nail the right and conservatives on, and it was just ended up being the Q people.
But did they change the rules? Because I mean, Twitter clamped down hard.
Yeah, I don't think that they're allowed back. I don't think they, they have waves. They have these content moderators. They get, there's a very few amount of people actually like working at these sites, and I think they're just like, oh yeah, I remember over the summer, like the Chrissy Teigen thing, like they just were like, oh, we're just gonna target this group because it makes Chrissy Teigen upset. We can't lose her. So I think it's just like whoever they feel, just like Facebook, like whoever they feel like blocking and suspending. It's like usually anybody who's like conservative and on the right. And then I see this like Vice article that it was like decoding the dangerous symbols from January 6th. And like one of them was like the Oath Keepers, which are just guys that are there to like break up fights. One of them was like, and conservatives, just all conservatives, and not conservatives, all Christians are extremists. Like, look at this guy with this like flag from his church, like let's get him. They're really broadening out like who's considered extreme, like just out to just regular ass Christians. So it's wild, but we're doing our best to fight this. And I'm trying
I'm still even allowed anywhere, to be honest. Like anytime I'm like, oh, Like, I'm amazed I still have a Twitter profile. Let's just put it that way.
Because I think it would look so bad. Like you're so out there. It would be.
It would look bad, but
It looks-
they always do the wrong thing. They do
Yeah,
the
of
perfect wrong
course.
thing every single time. So yeah, it would be bad, but
no one would be surprised either. I
right.
completely get it. Eliza, other than your locals page, where can people find you, follow you, support you, check in with you?
Yeah, so for the time being, still on Twitter at Eliza Bleu, ELIZABLEU, locals, eliza.locals.com. And actually, Adam, who you just met, Adam Krigler, he does Adamcast, Adamcast IRL and Adamcast. He just started, and we're going to post it like maybe today, maybe on Monday, but he just started a GoFundMe for equipment to start my own podcast.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so
Good
That's
for
cool.
you.
Yeah,
you
I'm going to do
should.
a podcast where I interview both survivors and convicted abusers as well.
Oh my gosh, well that's exciting. I was like, how do you talk to the abusers without like choking them? But no, that's good. These are like important conversations. That's very exciting,
If
Eliza.
they're convicted, I feel like I'd be much safer. I don't want to do any
Right.
the thing. Yeah, I'm not trying to like put myself at risk at anything. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, you wouldn't do like a Chris Hansen, like sit down, like you wouldn't do
Have a seat.
Yeah, yeah. Brittany, where can people find you, follow you, see what you're doing?
Well, as for me, I'm no longer on Twitter because of false DMCA claims. You could do that to anyone's
Oh.
account and get them banned. Fun fact. Anyway, you can find me on YouTube for now as well, Brittany Venti, and I run 2 podcasts. I just ended the first season of one of them called Paranormality, and the other is called Internet Girl, where I have people like Chrissie on. And Eliza, if you want to come on, you're more than welcome to. I would love to have a
Super
survivor
fun.
on.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get people on to talk about that topic. It's seriously difficult, and it's hard to raise awareness if nobody wants to come on and talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on YouTube, and I'm on Minds as well, Brittany Venti, and Instagram, which is Brittany Venti, and Brittany Wears is my fashion Instagram. So
Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah. It's good times. We do it all, guys. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. This is really great. This conversation will continue because of little podcasts like this. So
Yeah,
excited to
and
see what
thank you.
happens.
So honestly, Chrissy, thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your
course.
friendship. I appreciate it very, very much.
I love you
And
guys.
Brittany, it was nice to meet you.
thank you. It's nice to meet you too, and thank you for having me on as well, Chrissy. I'm always happy to be here.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.